Hello humans, welcome back. Now let's go into the setup for China. Here we have, well, in time trial as always, a lab that I've just set with a custom setup, and then we'll just compare it to the time trial setup that I also attempted. So not much of a difference. It's really going to come down to your driving style. If you prefer a car that is a lot more lively when you're going on acceleration here, or as opposed to you want a bit more stable rear end as you are accelerating out of the slower corners here to gain traction. So all those you'll have to take into consideration when you're driving. Do you like the car to be pointy on the front, or do you want the rear end to be stable? All those things you can always customize in your setup. So now let's take a look at the setup that we have over here, the custom setup and the time trial setup, and then at the end we will just take a look at a track guide around China. How do you nail time, and where do you potentially going to be able to gain or lose time if you take some silly lines around here, right? So let's go back to the garage. And also apologies, no face cam today because camera got stolen by someone else in the home, so it will be back very soon. Regardless, here we have the aerodynamics 42-32 wings. So China is going to be predominantly wearing on the left side of your tires a lot, since well, clockwise circuit, and the left side is going to take a lot more stress, and the front left or the rear left is going to be taking a lot of beating around here. You want the front to be having a lot more downforce than the rear, so that you can drive a little bit more conservatively. You don't have to scrub your tires too much, you don't have to apply too much steering lock, and you can be smoother into these long high-speed corners without scrubbing your tires off, and that will help you to preserve your tires a little bit longer in the race. So 42-32 is a pretty decent wing setup around here. I wouldn't recommend going any higher than 33 wings if you really need to, if you want a bit more drivability. But you know, the main thing here is you want to be able to follow in sector 1 and sector 2, and then in sector 3 there's a pretty long back straight which you can use to close up to someone, and then on the pit straight perhaps you can make another overtake. So it's gonna be back and forth. You really have to have a car that is well balanced all around the track, as opposed to somewhere like Spain. You really want a car that is optimized for second and third sector, so that you can easily overtake on the first sector. So that's the kind of difference you really have to look into around here. Now you can go a bit lower on the front wing if you feel the overall setup is a lot more understeery, a lot more oversteery, my bad. And you can reduce the front wing or increase the rear wing to make sure the car is a little bit more stable. Alright, now transmission 55 on throttle seems to be, like I said again and again, the best or generic setting or global setting that you can use for on throttle on all tracks. You can go 50 at some tracks. Even at high speed corners, you definitely want to go a bit lower so that the car rotates a bit more, but you'll start to notice when you go a bit lower, the car may over rotate. So the rear of your car wants to step out, wants to snap on power. So you can reduce that effect by increasing your on throttle. Likewise, you know, again, if you keep going higher, you'll get more and more understeer on exit. So you don't want that too much coming out of those slower corners here around China. 55, 56 actually even seems to be just nice for the race. For the race, I'll use 60% after a few laps of the race and when the tires are wearing out. And then you also want to adjust your off throttle. 52 keeps the car really stable around here, especially when you're braking and then turning the car around, trail braking, coasting a lot in turn 1, 2 and 3, and also throughout the rest of the circuit where there's a lot of sections where you are coasting. You want the car to get ready to accelerate again, you want the car to be a little bit more stable. 52 is just what I like, and I'm going to use the same for the, well, you can say the race as well. You can go up to 53, that will help, or you can remain at 52, is equally good. Suspension geometry as always, minimum front camber and rear camber. That gives you a lot of stability and cornering speed also. Rear toe and front toe always minimum, that also increases your stability and also drivability. It's a lot faster to drive with this suspension geometry setup. Now we'll skip this and go to suspension, where you can always make customizations along with your aerodynamics to get the car to behave like you want. Now the world record setup is also using 42-32 wings, and I've only adjusted the suspension. So first thing I did is max out the front suspension. This is so that the front is a lot more stable when I throw the car into corners, and coming out of corners as well. I'm accelerating hard, especially for qualifying. I'm gonna need that. I want the car to be a lot more stable on power, so I want the front to be as stable as it can. 41, just go for it. And then rear suspension, it started off at 8, so it was 32, 8, something like this. Now I've increased it to the max, and then I've increased the rear suspension as well, quite a bit actually. This, it may sound counterintuitive sometimes in racing titles, but increasing your rear suspension may or may not actually make it worse on acceleration. But here I needed it higher so that I can limit the amount of movement the rear is having as I'm accelerating through these medium and low speed corners. Now to counter that off, I've lowered the ride height overall by 1 for front and rear, so that the car feels a lot more planted to the rear. And for the anti-roll bars, which started off at 10.3, I've lowered the rear to 1, so that the rear is a lot more stable and I don't get a lot of oversteer coming out of corners. I still get good rotation. And then to get a bit more front grip, I've reduced the front anti-roll bar to 7. So again, you can follow this. It's pretty good setup. If you feel the car is just trying to kill you in certain corners, you can always go down on the suspension by 1 or 2 clicks. I'll say don't go any lower than 11. That's where I start to feel the car becomes too understeery, and you may get like entry understeer and snap oversteers. So there you go. And then brakes, as always, 100% brake pressure. You want to maintain that throughout all the tracks, even in dry and in wets. Now brake bias 53% is, it sounds dangerous around here actually, but you'll be using 53, 52 even for most of the corners around here, since they are only very light braking. You even saw me using 50% on the last corner to set up the lap, and also into turn 1, especially in qualifying. You can do that so that you get a lot more rotation and the car gets pointed to the apex much quicker. Heavy braking, I'll prefer to use 54 or 55 throughout the track, and then the second last corner, the hairpin, I'm using 55 because it is the heaviest braking zone, so I need a lot more stability. I don't want the car to lock up. And tire pressures for qualifying, you can always go higher. 7 clicks on the front, 3 clicks on the rear is just fine. Again, tested this and it just works fine. For the race, again, depending on the condition, sometimes it's fully sunny, you may have to reduce your pressures, or if it's sort of overcast, you can always maintain the same pressures. You want the pressures, the tire temperatures, to be between 100 and 105 for China, for the mediums and hard tires, and you'll be just nice in terms of overall maximum grip that we can get out of the car. So that is my custom setup. 42, 32 wings, 55, 52 on differential, 60 in the race. You can even use 53 off throttle in the race. Suspension geometry is always right, left, left. 41, 16 suspension, 7.1 on the anti-roll bars, and 32, 37 on the ride height. If you feel the car is oversteery, again, you can increase the front ride height by 1. It will sort of balance out the overall feeling of the car if you need to. Brakes 155 to start it off. You can use lower brake pressure, lower brake bias actually, in some of the high-speed corners, just to get the car turned in a bit more. And tire pressures, 7 clicks on the front, 3 clicks on the rear, you'll just fine. And let's take a look at the time trial setup, which we can just load from our buddy here. And time trial setup, not much different here. 42, 32 is the same. 55, 51, a lot more oversteer, a lot more rotation on when you let go of the car. Same suspension geometry, and suspension is where it changes a lot. So it's quite soft on the front to allow the front to turn in, and the rear is relatively softer to the front because you don't want it to be out of balance. Now anti-roll bars on the front, it's quite high, and rear is on 3, so this is going to give you a lot more rotation on the rear. The car is going to be a lot more reactive in high speed, but also coming out of slower corners on traction zones, it's going to be a bit sketchy if you can't control it. Ride height 33, 38, like I said, it was okay, and I could get away with 32, 37. It felt a lot more nicer to drive, and everything else is just about the same. Now if you're done, I'll like take a moment to invite you to join my Discord server. The Singh racing community is kind of active, it's starting to get a lot more active. People are joining in, helping out each other with setups, and we also have a engineer bot, just Carl bot actually, and we have commands set in so you can configure your setup. You can get your setup that you want from track to track. You can also find out tips that you want to use to, well, fix certain issues with your car. For example, you have low top speed, or maybe your tires are overheating, or you have entry understeer, entry oversteer, all those stuff, it can be fixed. And you can always discuss with the community to get some feedback. And yeah, see you there. And if you are staying a little further, now let's take a look at a track guide around China. So if you want to always take a look back at your best laps in time trial. Once you end the session, you can always click the button which shows you the replay fastest lap. Now let's ride on board and see how do we set up the lap. First of all, the last corner here, you don't want to be clipping this yellow sausage curb. If you clip that even a little bit, I think here we're just about missing it, so just perfect. You want to be something like this, just on the limit, and then let the car run wide on the exit. You don't want to go more than half a car length wide because you will bottom out on the curb regardless of your ride height. So you want to go just about half off on the curb, and then DRS as early as possible, and then bring your car over to the left into turn 1. Now let's go back onto the front cam here, TV cam. 50-meter board, or as the white line passes, the white line at the pit exit as well here. As soon as you pass that, you want to turn in, and then for qualifying you can still have full throttle until the curb starts. I like to brake as soon as the curb starts here. In the race you can brake a bit earlier as well and carry the speed rather than braking too hard. And then just get the car turned in, increase your turning radius more and more as you go into the corner, and as you slow down. As you can see, the steering, I'm turning more and more progressively, not applying sharp correction. So it's a very progressive turning into turn 1. And then as soon as you spot the apex here into turn 2, crank the steering lock even more. Go as tight as you can. Aim for the yellow sausage but not hit them, of course. Use them as a reference to get tight to the apex. And then as soon as you hit that, just about 40-50% throttle to get the car rotated around the corner, and it gains a slight bit of time as well. And then as soon as the car is straight again, and then aim for this apex, stay tight but let the car run wide on the exit, and straighten out as much as you can while staying sort of like to the left middle ish of the track. Accelerate out of the corner, use the exit so that you can straighten out the car. And then into turn 4 here, or 5, I don't know, you're gonna put your brake bias back up to 54 or 55 at the 100-meter board, or at 75 depending on the trim that we are in. In qualifying you can go at 75 meters. Brake hard, third gear, get the car turned into the apex. I could have gone a bit tighter here, so I've missed the apex just a slight bit, so it's gonna lose me a bit of time on the exit. I'm gonna be a bit wide on exit on the curb, so it's not gonna give me the perfect exit. So you want to be a little bit tighter and a little bit straighter on the exit. And then into the next part here, the best part of this track, this high-speed S sections. Now as soon as the curb on the right side here ends, or even just before it ends actually, you can start turning in. And in qualifying it is perfectly flat. Keep the car flat, keep turning in, and then let the car sort of drift to the middle left-ish of the track. I like to drift it a bit to the left before I throw it back to the right, so that it maintains good amount of speed in this section. Downshift twice to 5th gear, and maybe even 4th gear if you need to get the car turned in. And then a little bit of throttle as well, about 50-75%. And then as soon as you hit this exit road on right between this curb, that's where you're gonna be braking. Just tap on the brakes and then get the car turned in into the apex, tight on the entry, but do not clip the sausage curb on the inside. Do not mount the curb any more than this as well. And then accelerate gently and progressively out of the corner. Open up the steering as you're accelerating so that the car gains grip. And then on the exit, let the car run wide again. You don't want the car to be more than half on the curb here, otherwise you'll lose time because it's gonna bottom out regardless of your ride height. Now down into another heavy braking zone here, maybe go up to 55 brake bias and brake as soon as you hit somewhere in between the 50 and 100. So maybe just after the curb starts, I have a little marker here which is somewhere between these two curves, you know, where it starts to widen. So just before that I brake, so roughly about 70-75 meters, brake heavy, and then get the car turned in into the apex again, aim for the apex, and then straighten out the car, apply throttle all the way here, not 100% of course, just 40-50, and keep applying throttle, increasing it as you go. Upshift to fourth early to get the power down, and then here I got a bit loose here, but again, if you nail the line you can go flat all the way already. Stay tight so that you can open up the exit as well. Stay to the middle of the track and let the car run wide. Don't run on the exit curb, it's gonna bottom out and slow you down on this straight, which is gonna be detrimental. DRS wide open here, and then you're gonna bring your car all the way to the left here, almost mounting the curb, but you don't want to be on the curb, you know, because there's grass on the outside, you can't go any further. So 100-meter board is where you're going to be braking in qualifying. In the race, just a bit earlier as the curb starts, so you can start braking here, go up on the brake bias to 55 or 56, and then brake heavy. Third gear is what you want to be taking into the corner. I kind of drift outwards a little bit when I'm braking here, just to open up the entry into the hairpin here. So it's something that you can apply as well in tight corners like this. It's gonna help you to open up the exit just that a little bit more, so you can use a bit of the curb on the left hand side while braking. So try that out, but you don't want to be braking 100% on the curves. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, I don't know, but just at the very end I like to drift wide and open up the entry, and then crank the steering, turn the car in, and then power out as much as you can out of the corner. And then now into the last corner again, it's similar to how you set up the corner before you start qualifying. You want to take it the same. There are two brake marker reference around here. One is the Rolex board on top. Do not use the shadow because it kind of like distorts your vision if you really need to. Sometimes there's no sunshine, there's no shadow, so you want to be using the Rolex board. As soon as you pass that, brake just a little bit and then downshift at the same time and throw the car into the corner without hitting the yellow sausage. Again, we are slightly wider than our prep lap, but this gets the job done as well. And then on the exit, I think this is as much as you want to go. You don't want to go any wider than this because then it starts to bottom out on the curb. DRS wide open, stay tight, stay straight to the exit line, and there you go, a lap around China. So hope this helps and you gain some more lap time in a combination of the setup and a track guide and how to take it quicker as well, and a bit of practice. Definitely put in some practice before you start blaming your skills or the setup. So anything you need help, always feel free to comment in the comment section, and I will see y'all in the next setup guide, which is, whoa, who knows, right? It's a mystery here in the Singh Racing channel. See you next time. Take care everyone, stay safe, and bye bye.